Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spurs Up Show, the best Gamecocks podcast on the internet. Today is Monday, January the 11th, 2020. On today's show, we're talking coaching staff. Hey, it's finally taking shape. OC, DC, strength and conditioning coach hired. Marcus Satterfield, Clayton White, and Luke Day all named their respective positions. I'll talk about each of the hirings, my full thoughts on it. We'll break it all down. Also, news and notes to get into, some transfers, men's basketball, or Trey Smith, some things to go along with the strength conditioning stuff, scheduling notes, all that and more, plus your listener questions, voicemails, and we have a fantastic interview, guys. Former Gamecocks quarterback Chris Smelley. Yes, Chris Smelley joins the show. We talk about his career at South Carolina, how he got to South Carolina, transferring to Alabama, playing for Steve Spurrier, everything to do with his career. A lot of great stuff, guys. We got a packed Monday. Good show. It's all brought to you by our friends over at Upstate Movers Group. Guys, Upstate Movers Group, they bring care and attention their companies can't offer because they're just too busy maintaining truck and profiting off of them instead of focusing on service. Guys, service separates Upstate Movers Group from the competition. By the way, they're not a trucking company. They are a moving services company. They're also employee-owned co-op, guys. Their movers are paid twice the industry average, and everyone on the crew is just invested in the success of the project as you are. They have dedicated professional crew members. They also offer black glove service, guys. They offer end-to-end packing services, custom creating and packaging of stretchable items, and cleaning services as well. They're founded by Greenville natives and University of South Carolina alumni, guys, so a Gamecock-owned small business. They also offer 20 years of project management moving experience, and they can offer logistics and solutions that traditional moving companies simply do not have the skills for, guys. Whether you're in the upstate or across the state of South Carolina, any moving needs you might have in 2021, be sure to check out my friends over at Upstate Movers Group. You can find them on social media at Upstate Movers Group. And of course, their website, upstatemoversgroup.com. That is upstatemoversgroup.com. Show is also brought to you by our friends over at MyBookie, guys. It's 2021. MyBookie, they've been in a giving mood, right? A $250 risk-free bet on Thanksgiving, boosted odds, free bets every year on Black Friday, and they continue to give away bets on Cyber Monday, guys, for a sports book that is supposed to be in the business of making money. They were giving it away. That's why I've been one of the reasons why I've been rolling with MyBookie this season, guys. The fact is this. If you're going to put some action on the games, whether you're betting NFL, NCAA, college football, college hoops, whatever your preference, you want to do it with a reputable brand like MyBookie, guys. If you're going to make a deposit, do it with the promo code Gamecocks. That's promo code Gamecocks. They're going to match your bet halfway to give you a head start on building your bankroll, guys. So, for example, you put in $200, they're going to give you an extra $100 to play with. Joining a deposit is a simple process, and it's quick. But more importantly, when it's time to get paid, that is quick too. Treat yourself some extra cash in your pocket this holiday season by investing in your intuition. Guys, it's not just winter season, it's winning season. So bet, win, and get paid with MyBookie. Let's get it. Monday, folks. How is it going? I'm Chris Willis, your host of the Spurs Up Show. As always, appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know, it's funny. I was out and about on Sunday, hanging out with some people. Little Sunday fun day, if you will. First time probably for me on a Sunday and probably over, it's probably been over a year since I had like a really Sunday where I really went out, had a good time, hung out with people, whatever. And, you know, I just want to say thank you to you guys because I do realize every single day how lucky that I am that I get to do what I do. How lucky we all are, by the way, that we get to talk Gamecocks, get to follow the Gamecocks. We get to talk sports, get to follow sports, everything else. Again, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I do want to get to a couple announcements really quickly before we go on because we got a lot to talk about. Because, you know, it's funny. The Friday podcast that I put out, and again, this is why we do the Daily Crow, by the way. This is why we do it because with the funny thing is this. with sports, you never know when news will drop. You never know when things will be outdated. And Shane Beamer has been really bad about this, by the way. Shane Beamer, I want to say one thing to Coach Beamer. Coach Beamer, I love you, but why are you dropping news at like 10 p.m. every night? Like, can I have 5 minutes to hang out with myself? Like, I love it, but Coach, come on now. Help me out. Anyways, no, it's all good. Got a lot to get into, though. A lot of things. It's funny, though, because the podcast I dropped Friday, it basically was outdated when it dropped because of the news that happened late Thursday. So I want to address that. All the coordinator stuff going together. Obviously, today we're going to have a lot more news coming out with the coaching staff stuff. But a couple of housekeeping items really quickly. You guys have been asking where the stream's at. Tonight, they will resume Road to Glory with Luke Doty. We'll officially kick it off with the Road to Glory tonight, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, Road to Glory. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock as well. The reason we're doing Monday, Tuesday, there's one of two reasons. Number one, I want to move it up because 8 o'clock's way too late. 7 o'clock works. Well, I guess there's three reasons. Number one, want to move it up because 8 o'clock's too late. Number two, basketball game with Tennessee is postponed. So I want to make sure that we get it in, right? I want to make sure we get it in. And the reason I say that is because number three, I am going on vacation from Wednesday night until Monday. So there will be no Daily Crow that I know of Thursday and Friday. Now, I have not made a final decision. We might go live from the car on the road trip on Thursday. We might go live from the theme park on Friday because, yes, I'm going to Universal Studios, guys. I'm going with the family. Going to be a really, really good time. I'm really excited. We got a really big time family vacation planned. Really excited. I'll still cover the basketball game, still be doing everything else, but I'm going on a little vacation, so might go live Friday from the theme parks. You never know, but letting you guys know kind of what the plan is. Things might be a little bit, still going to have a podcast Thursday, Friday, all that good stuff, but I want to let you guys know sort of what the deal is. But yes, Sims tonight. Actually, I take it back. Not tonight. National title game tonight. Tuesday for sure, maybe Wednesday. I take it back. I apologize. I lied. I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking right now. So again, Tuesday for sure. Maybe today at an earlier time. I have not decided. Maybe earlier today, maybe like 5 o'clock. I don't know. You guys just stay tuned. You know what I love about you guys? You guys are very flexible. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's go ahead and dive into the meat of everything. That's what everyone wants to hear, right? Chris, what's your thought on the coaching staff? That's what everybody wants to talk about because, of course, we don't have basketball because basketball can't, for whatever reason, stay healthy. So I want to talk about the coaching staff, right? And I think some of you, honestly, I don't know about a lot of you, but some of you might be disappointed because I think some of you might be tuning in to get a hot take, get a rant, get disappointment, get a certain type of energy that I don't know that you, or I know for a fact that probably you're not going to get from me. Because listen, what has happened since we last chatted, at least for the podcast side of things, Marcus Satterfield named as offensive coordinator for Shane Beamer. Clayton White, defensive coordinator. This happened on Saturday. Luke Day hired as strength and conditioning coach. And you might be asking yourself, if you somehow felt, you're living under a rock for the weekend, Chris, who are those people? Marcus Satterfield, coach under Matt Rule, Temple, Baylor, assistant offensive line coach for the Carolina Panthers. Clayton White, Western Kentucky, his last stop. Luke Day, Colorado. Marshall was at Georgia for a bit. I feel like I can summarize all three of these hires in one take. So here we go. I'm going to try to do this, okay? Because there's two sides of me to this, right? I understand. Listen, and this, by the way, this is not being negative, okay? I want to make that very clear. This is not being negative. This is calling a spade, okay? There were a lot of Gamecock fans, the majority, basically all of them, that when Shane Beamer was hired, thought we're going to get an all-star staff, quote unquote. Now, here's the problem with saying that phrase that Shane Beamer said, which I love Shane Beamer. I'm on the Shane train, support Coach Beamer, but I'm playing devil's advocate a bit and just giving a point. When you say that, when you say all-star staff is, subjected to everyone. Everyone has a different image of all-star staff in their mind, right? Some people think an SEC retread is an all-star staff. Some people think rolling the dice and taking a chance is an all-star staff. Some people, they don't think an all-star staff is possible. Some people do. I don't know. But I will say this, when it comes to Satterfield, White, Day, whatever, this coaching staff, especially with the Satterfield hire as OC, and I said this on social media Friday, but I want to reiterate, I will not knock a Gamecock fan for feeling a little underwhelmed. And again, this is not negative because I know a few of you on social media want to peg me as being negative. I want to make one thing clear. I challenge you. I challenge you to go look back at everything I've said about Shane Beamer, his hires. And again, I'm not trying to defend myself as like I'm going to be 100% positive 100% of the time because I'm not. I'll be critical when it's called for. But have I said a truly negative thing about Marcus Satterfield, this coaching staff, Shane Beamer? No, I have not. I've said multiple times I'm going to give Shane Beamer the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. And I was the same way with Will Muschamp, by the way. I want to make that clear. I was very much the same way with Will Muschamp. But I will not blame a Gamecock fan for feeling underwhelmed about Satterfield. Hey, I won't even blame you for feeling underwhelmed about Clayton White or Luke Day or any for a second. But I challenge you as a Gamecock fan to this. Listen, I see a lot of this happening. Chris, who is Satterfield? Who is White? Who is Day? We need to get coaches that are known. Coaches that are known throughout the college football ranks. Guys, let me just say something, and if this offends you, so be it. Most fans can't name 5 coaches, 5 coordinators, 5 assistants in college football. Name me 5 right now. 5 right now. You can't do it. So let me ask you this question. Would you rather have a Will Muschamp in there who's hiring his friends, going through his Rolodex, saying, hey, which one of my buddies needs a job? Let me give it to him. Or would you rather have a guy like Shane Beamer who says, you know what? I'm going to go out and get the best guys that I think are fit. It don't matter my relationships. It don't matter, that I've worked with them before, whatever. But I'm going to go out and get the guys I think are the best fit for this job, that I think are going to be an asset to me winning football games. Which one would you rather have? And yes, I know that Shane Beamer was a GA with Saturday, but dude, it's not like he has some crazy relationship with the guy, right? Look at Saturday, and listen, I understand how much of a risk a guy like Satterfield is. I get it in the sense of listen, I know he has he's a lot like Shane Beamer. Marcus Satterfield to me is a lot like Shane Beamer in the sense that, and a little bit different because, Satterfield's been an OC before, which is Shane Beamer's the head coach. But, both guys are unproven. They've done it at this level for a while, but they're unproven. And guys, I'll just tell you this about Marcus Satterfield. Let me tell you something real quick. Let me tell you a little secret. I'll tell you a secret, okay? Let me tell you a little bit of a secret. And I've talked to different people about that. I talked to my buddy at Georgia. I've talked to football people. Calling plays is not that hard. It's not. And I'm not trying to sit here and say that everybody's Steve Spurrier. That's not what I'm saying. But calling plays is not that hard. Okay? Shane Beamer. Here's the thing. The thing I love about Shane Beamer is this. I genuinely believe, for the first time in a long time, South Carolina has a football coach that gives a damn about this program. I mean, he truly gives a damn. He cares about this program. He's not going to hire a guy. And I said the same thing about Bobo when he had Bobo on. And I could tell you guys things about that. Hey, I'll tell you this because I think it's been since we talked. Hey, I think the Bobo going to Auburn thing was the best thing that could have happened to South Carolina. Hell, I've heard from sources that it was red tape. It was a prerequisite. He had to keep Bobo on. He had to. Didn't have a choice. You tell me, would you rather have the guy he was forced to keep on or somebody he picked within 24 hours after Mike Bobo leaving? I'll take the other guy. I'll take the Marcus Satterfield of the world. I will. I don't know about you. I will. But anyways, getting back to my point. Guys, calling plays is not rocket science, right? Hey, you know what we need more than anything? We need playmakers. We need playmakers. We need guys that can make plays. You know what makes a play caller's job really easy? An Alshon Jeffrey, a Bruce Ellington, a Nicky Jones, an Ace Sanders, a Pharaoh Cooper, a Debo, a Brian Edwards, a Shy. Those guys make calling plays easy. A Kevin Harris, a Marcus Lattimore, a Marshawn Lloyd, a Mike Davis. We got to get guys like that. And then we can start to nitpick and say, oh, this guy sucks. Marcus Satterfield is not at this level by accident. For those saying, here's the mindset I don't get. Because I think a lot of you guys, and I would say this about Satterfield, and I want to talk about Clayton White too, and I'll go ahead and jump into that. And then I'll make my point. Because I think the OC thing will be a lot more debate in the DC. I think Clayton White is a fantastic hire. Now, you guys can listen to SEC Mike if you want to, and I got nothing but respect for Bratton. Bratton's a cool dude, been on my show, been on his show, all the good stuff, but he's a Tennessee guy. I mean, really, bro, y'all got more than enough shit to worry about in Knoxville other than our coaching stuff. And Bratton, if you're listening, hey, I respect you, brother. I respect you. If I was a Tennessee fan, I'd be concerned too, because Carolina's been kicking that ass for a few years. Hey, last decade's been ugly for Tennessee football. Last decade plus has been ugly. If I was a Tennessee fan, I'd be on edge too. I'd be talking shit about other schools too. You better hold on to it while you can. Because, hey, I'll tell you what, the 90s of Tennessee football, where Tennessee football was actually relevant and people wanted to go to the bum you-know-what to play, that shit is fading, my guy. That shit is very much fading. But, hey, I love Bratton. Love his show. Probably going to have him back on. But here's what I think happens in college football. You guys, names become the story, okay? Names are the story. Bottom line. And I don't know. I look at it and I think what happens is we get so caught up in these names and the Saban coaching tree and, this guy worked for that guy, worked at this school, worked at that. Bro, listen. And I'm not trying to say everyone is Nick Saban. I'm not doing it. But, dude, I compare it to a hitter or a pitcher or an athlete being at the professional level. The worst hitter, the worst pitcher, the worst basketball player, the worst hockey player, the worst guy on an NFL roster. Okay? All those guys. You might say they suck, quote unquote, right? You might say they suck. Okay? But guys, in comparison, maybe they suck, right? Maybe in comparison they do, but they don't suck. You take the last dude on an NBA roster. He'll go out to a pickup game right now and drop 50. You take the worst MLB hitter. He'll go out right now and hit 50 bombs in a Sandlot league. You take the worst MLB pitcher. He will no-hit everyone. He throws 97. Guys, a guy like Marcus Satterfield, Clayton White, Luke Day, Even a guy like Will Muschamp, who I have ripped. Granted, I don't think he's fit to be a head football coach, but he's not a complete idiot. He knows the game. These guys know the game, dude. Marcus Satterfield is not getting the OC job as a favor. Clayton White is not getting the DC job as a favor. Luke Day, the same. These guys know what they are doing. And if you believe and trust in Shane Beamer like I do, how can you question these hires? Are they the names we envisioned? No, they are not. Am I blaming a Gamecock fan for being a little bit let down, quote unquote, in the sense of like that star power, quote unquote, that we heard Shane Beamer talking about? Sure, maybe a little bit. But guys, did you like the Beamer hire or did you not? And if you did, and you trust in Shane Beamer, and you trust that he wants the best for this program, you got to trust in the Satterfield and the White hires, even though they're not the quote-unquote most popular. They're not the brand names, if you will. You know who were the brand names? You know who they were? Mike Bobo, Lance Thompson, Travaris Robinson, Brian McClendon, Bro, we've seen that. We've seen that. We've seen that. We've been down that road. It's the same exact thing I said in the coaching search for the head coach. I'll say it right now for the coordinators. That, you know what? This is the perfect time to roll the dice. It really is. And listen, I have no issues, none, with a Gamecock fan being critical, skeptical, making observations and voicing those concerns. I have none. I have no concerns with that. But to be negative about these hires or to, and again, I want to get in this to just a second, by the way. To be someone who says these hires suck because they're not known people. You couldn't name 5 assistant coaches. I mean, you really couldn't. Most fans couldn't name 5 assistant coaches. You couldn't name 5 other OCs in college football. You couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. So who in the world are you going to tell me who we should hire as OC, DC, and strength and conditioning coach? Name 5 other S&C coaches. You wanted a guy from Oregon because he had a mustache. You don't know anything about him. That's it. Like, call it for what it is. Most fans that are going to be upset about this, and most are not, by the way. Most fans are not. But I know some of you listening are. You want a guy who has a mustache. Who gives a shit? You got fans, guys. You got fans commenting that, oh, his arms aren't big. He's not a great S&C coach. Bro, why do you... What? Hey, you work on the job of construction. Could you build a house by yourself? Are you shitty at your job too? Hey, guess what? You work on the site as an engineer. Can you build it all by yourself? Can you weld it all? Can you do it all? No. Like, it makes no sense. He can know the crap. Hey, there are swing coaches for golf, hitting coaches for baseball, position coaches in football that maybe can't do it, but they can teach it. Just because the guy don't like Arnold Schwarzenegger don't make him a bad strength and conditioning coach. I mean, I can't believe I'm ranting about this, but like, it's just like, it's the wildest thing ever. It's wild. Now, am I saying that there's not risk with Satterfield? There's not risk with White. There's not risk with Day. I'm not saying that, but there's risk with everybody. There's risk with everyone. There is. And hey, I had fans at Chris, did he call Garrett Riley? Did he call? I'm sure he called whoever. But again, are you a fan of Beamer? Do you like Beamer? Are you on the Shane train? You got to roll with who Shane's rolling with. And I promise you, again, The beauty in it is this. There's two things, guys. Number one, you know what's great? Shane Beamer is not playing buddy ball. He's not. He is going out and hiring guys he feels are going to be the best possible asset to his football program, okay? And what I expect from Marcus Satterfield, I'm sure a lot of you are like, Chris, let's dive into X's and O's, but I'm more so ranting for the reactions I've seen on social media. Now, the X's and O's side of things, I think South Carolina will be very much spread, forward thinking, up tempo. I think it's going to be a lot of Oklahoma. I think you're going to see South Carolina run the football a ton, for sure. I think they're going to run the football a ton. But I think Shane Beamer will have a big hand in the South Carolina offense. I think he will 100%. And, yeah. So, we'll see. But, I mean, we'll see what happens with the offense. And then Clayton White, the 4-2-5, which is a welcome sight to Columbia. Ran under Steve Spurrier, excuse me. So, but the biggest thing is this. You trust in Shane Beamer. You like Shane Beamer. Beamer ball. Shane Storm. All aboard the Shane train. Hey, you're a big Beamer guy, right? You love Shane Beamer. You got to trust him. Because the great thing about Shane Beamer is this. One of two things. Number one, he's not playing buddy ball. He's not hiring guys from his Rolodex like the previous regime. He's not just hiring guys to hire them because of, previous relationships. And number two, you know what this is? Number two, Shane Beamer actually cares about the USC program. And not, dude, when's the last time we could say that? Honestly, I'll wait. When's the last time we could actually say that? When do you think? And again, I know some of you smart ass, I don't even want to say it. Some of you smart asses will come back and say, oh, man, of course his dream job. He got paid all his money. I mean, of course it is. Oh, my God. I'm sure that'll fill it up. YouTube comments will go off. Joe Blow 44 with his freaking his non-profile picture having self will leave some comment. Right below the guy that talks about all the ads and all that, just right below that guy. But, Shane Beamer's been here. He knows the culture. He knows the history. And you look at the videos and you talk, you look at everything he said. And a guy that was literally shedding tears being on the field. And maybe he's got me, dude. Maybe he does. But I believe for a fact that Shane Beamer genuinely cares about this football program. I really do. I just really do. I do. For whatever reason, I do. I think he cares about this football program. And I think for the first time in a while, we have a football coach that's not going to just make hires to employ buddies. And I don't think he just cares about getting a check like other coaches have done, a.k.a. Will Muschamp. I don't think he's worried about his freaking buyout. I think he actually wants to see this program do well. He wants to see this program win. And so he's not going to hire a guy like Marcus Satterfield or Clayton White or Luke Day or Byron Jerido, who might come back, Shaq Wilson, who might come back, Travell Wharton, who might come. He's not going to put those guys in positions unless they're going to be assets to his program. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. What does he have to gain from doing that? From just giving him a job? What does he have to gain? He's never been a head coach. What does he have to gain? Nothing. And again, I'm not saying don't be critical. I'm not saying don't criticize. I'm not saying don't be skeptical of guys you've never heard of. Be skeptical. Be critical. Hold these guys to the flame because they make enough money. They deserve it. Honestly, that's what fans miss. A guy like Shane Beamer making 2.7, he deserves to be held to the flame. He doesn't come through, doesn't win enough games. But with that being said, if you trust in the guy, which we all do because South Carolina hired him, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt first. You do. I think you do. I gave Muschamp that. Believe it or not, I did. I think Satterfield is a good young offensive mind. He's a lot like Beamer, unproven, hadn't been at big schools. He's a mystery. Clayton White, Broyles Award finalist, or Broyles Award nominee, Michael Bratton's going to go crazy in the mentions because I said finalist. Which, SEC Mike, handle your own shit in Knoxville. Who's your head coach? Who's your program? What you got going on? I'd love to have you back on the show. I don't comment on your shit show of a program. Like, don't comment on ours. You know? Jesus Christ. SEC Mike, I love you. But, geez, come on. Be better. Be better, do better, think better, act better. Anyways. Satterfield, I think, a good hire, unproven. Clayton White, Broyles Award nominee. Really good job at Western Kentucky. Why is he a bad hire? Can you tell me? And then Luke Day, heard really good things about the kid. Heard really good things about the guy. Strength conditioning coach. Heard good things. Guys, I think South Carolina's fine. And again, could these turn out? Could Shane Beamer, Satterfield, White, Day, could they turn out to be terrible hires? Sure. Hey, but you know what else? We thought Will Muschamp. Maybe we didn't think it was a great hire, but we thought his staff was all-star. We did. We did. For a fact, we did. A lot of you did. You can look yourself. A lot of you did. You thought Champ's staff was all-star, bro. You never know. You just never know. Bottom line, you never know. You just never know. So, overall, I mean, again, a lot that we had to catch up on because of it happened late Thursday. You know, I'm talking to you guys right now, Sunday, 11/11, make a wish. I'm talking to you guys late on Sunday. But overall, I'm very much in wait and see mode. Okay? I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you guys that these are just like they're A+++ hires and you have no worries. I'm not saying that. But the guys know football. You got to listen. And again, we could go on a whole other show about this. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. But the first step for Gamecock football is this. This fall in 2021, do we see a well-coached football team, offensively, defensively, special teams, discipline, effort, everything? Do we see a well-coached team? Once we see that, we got to go get some ball players. And I think that's more of South Carolina's problem than anything. I'm not saying they didn't need to change coaches because they obviously did. But I think South Carolina's getting quality coaches in here. Now you got to go get some ball players. So Satterfield, White, Day, I'm fine with them. But I'm fine with all three of them. And then the rumors of Jaredo and Shaq Wilson, that would be fantastic. The more Gamecocks, the merrier. But the point, I guess, because again, and maybe we'll do it this week. We'll dive into Satterfield and White and their schemes and all they do. But I've seen all through the weekend, of course, a lot of reaction to it. And I want to give my insight in the sense of guys like, do you think Shane Beamer's just going to hire guys that are complete idiots? Because the funny thing is this. Mike Bobo was hated. He got the job. He was still hated. He left. A lot of fans were like, oh, my God, Mike Bobo. Then Satterfield gets, we need a proven guy. But that's what Bobo was. Like, guys, I'm convinced fans just hate all coaches. I'm convinced they hate all coaches. So I challenge the listener right now. Again, I'm not saying don't be critical. Don't be skeptical. Don't observe these people and pick them apart. They make enough money to take all of that criticism. They deserve it, honestly. They're on that platform. They make so much money. They should be criticized at a high level. But at least give them the benefit of the doubt. Give them a chance. Give them a chance. I think Shane Beamer, I know Shane Beamer would not hire these dudes if he didn't think they'd be an asset to his football program. So I could rant all night. Let's go. Let's move into news and notes real quickly. Your listener questions, voicemails, and, of course, our interview. Got a lot of news and notes, by the way. Some transfer news. Keir Thomas, Jamie Robinson, both transferring to Florida State, which, I saw some fans that, that thought maybe they'd come, or Jamie would come back. No, both are going to FSU. Bottom line, wish them best of luck. Hope they both play well. Kind of happens when you have a coaching staff change, when you have the type of stuff that South Carolina's had, but, it is what it is. Wish them best of luck. Men's basketball postpones. Of course, you guys saw no game happen on Saturday. No watch party, unfortunately. No game tomorrow night. So hopefully next game will be Saturday at 8:30 against the LSU Tigers. Next watch party, if possible, won't be until either Tuesday or Saturday of next week. So I'll let you guys know. Another quick thing. Sports Talk SC putting it out. We posted Ortre Smith, which I talked to a current Gamecock player probably a month ago. He expected this to happen, but Ortre Smith should be back for the Gamecocks in 2021. Now, what do I expect from Ortre? I think a lot of fans are stuck on his freshman year. Guys, the guy hadn't been healthy in 2 years. If he ever seriously contributed again, I'd be shocked. And again, I hope I'm wrong. Because I think the guy has talent. He's obviously a really big body dude. And maybe with a change of staff and a change in practice habits and rehabilitation, like maybe he gets healthy. But to this point in his career, the guy's made of glass. I don't know what to think. I think he has talent, but he can't stay on the field. And part of being a really good athlete is staying on the field. So will he be able to do so? I don't know. But it sounds like Ortre Smith is coming back. Another quick thing with the strength and conditioning stuff. Luke Day hired as S&C. Byron Gerardo and Shaq Wilson. Are they coming back to Columbia? Coming from Tennessee, which I think would be a phenomenal hire by Shane. I mean, literally, because listen, the strength and conditioning staff and coaches spend more time with the players than probably the head coach or any other position coach do. So to bring those guys back would be incredible to me. Those guys were at USC when it was at the peak. They know this program. They know what it takes. They know what this program looks like, just like Coach Beamer does, even more so when it's at its peak. So to bring both those guys back, those freaking guys, bring both them back, be legendary. And, of course, last thing really quickly, announced, I believe, late Friday, maybe Saturday, 2025 Chick-fil-A kickoff game in Atlanta, South Carolina, Virginia Tech. What a game that should be. Looking forward to it. The Beamer Bowl. All right, let's move. We got a couple voicemails, questions, and we'll get to this interview. Let's go.
Two things. One, Will Friend is in the heart of the Tennessee investigation. Him leaving is probably one of the best things for us. Second, everybody hated Bobo, so we go out and get an offensive coordinator that has turned around some offenses most everywhere he has been when he was OC. Give the guy a chance. We're going to be using Oklahoma's playbook more than likely, and you can bet Shane Beamer will have his hands in this offense as well. Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. And I took his call on Friday, but I figured I'd play the voicemail as well. Yeah, Will Friend leaving. Obviously, he's in the middle of that Tennessee investigation. I'm not sad he's gone. Not at all, especially with that stuff. And then the hiring of, again, Satterfield, I'm more than happy with it. And I agree with you. I think, Beamer's going to have a big play in this offense, and I think we're going to be running a lot of what Oklahoma ran. And here's the thing: when we say that, when people say that, again, it's just like my buddy Tyler McComas when he came on said, people think air raid, throw it 70 times a game. No, we're going to run the football a lot. We're going to run the football to set up the pass. We are. And we're going to pass to set up the run. We are. The run will be a major. Look at Oklahoma. They run the football. We're going to run it. But I think you're going to see a lot more creativity, a lot more use of a mobile quarterback. I think you will see those things. But I certainly think Shane Beamer will have a hand in it for sure.
Hey, Chris, it's Corey again, and my question is, if Shane Beamer, man, I forgot my question. All right, well, don't air this one. This one's a waste of time, but I love the show. Man, I forgot my question, but I love the show. But sorry about that. If I remember it, I will call again. Sorry about that. Go Cox.
Corey, you forgot your question. I had to air it anyways. Thank you so much for the love. Corey, it's happening to the best of us, man. Thanks. Here, last voicemail, we're getting your questions.
No, they don't. But anyways, I wanted to ask, who's going to be our main quarterback this year?
All right. Not sure what happened in the beginning of the voicemail, but who's going to be our main quarterback this year? Great question. I think it'll be Luke Doty. I'm hearing rumors that, I don't want you guys to freak out here, but I am hearing rumors that Ryan Helinski might come back, honestly. But, I just think that with the direction the offense, I believe that Beamer and Satterfield wanted to go. I think it will be an up-tempo, spread, modern offense. And with that being said, the quarterback that best fits that description, I think it will be Luke Doty. I think that will be the main core. And again, I will say this, though. I say that and also say this. It would not shock me at all to see Shane Beamer go out and get a quarterback in the transfer portal. It really wouldn't. It really wouldn't. Go out to the portal, get a quarterback, push Doty. Never know. Might take the job. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm guessing. Because, again, what last year showed you with the whole Colin Hill, that whole thing, that whole fiasco, is that you never know what might happen. But as of right now, to the caller, as of right now, I'd say Luke Doty is your main quarterback as of right now. So, all right. Let's move to these actual questions, and then we'll kick it off to the interview and wrap this thing up. Gamecocks today. Let's start with this one. Really interesting question. Gamecocks today says, top Gamecock pages on social media other than yourself. And Gamecocks today, first things first. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the even the way you phrase the question. Thank you for saying that. That you I'm flattered that you would say other than yourself. I think there's a lot, obviously Gamecocks today does a good job. There's a lot of great pages, a lot of great Gamecock pages, a lot of great pages that post social media, post Gamecock content, I should say, on social media. And I would say to you guys, support them all. Support them all, because you know what? We can't get enough Gamecock content. We really can't. We really can't. So there's a lot of pages out there that post great graphics. They post great videos. They post great content. They post great pictures. They post great captions. Hey, there's enough room. There's enough room for everybody to win. There is. There's enough room for everybody to win. And so if you're listening, and again, Gamecocks today is one of the few, one of the many examples. I would chat, the Gamecocks Insider, guy that works with me directly. He's a great example. Gamecock Update does a great job. There's many pages out there. Follow them all. Support all the Gamecock content. Seriously. Support them all. So, hey, there's enough room for everybody to win. Absolutely. So, Gamecocks today. Thank you so much for answering the question, or sending the question, I should say. Let's see. V. Ryan Macri, assuming Clayton White runs the 4.25 he ran at WKU. Early prediction on starting back 5, the 5 DBs. Cam Smith, Jalen Dickerson. I think R.J. Roderick comes back. Let's see. Joey Hunter and Marcellus Dial. My 5 right now. KJ. Swaney +2. How do you feel about the new hires? Do you think our culture will be better? Yes. Culture? No doubt. No doubt. Krusty Andy, what hire are you most psyched about? What hire are you most skeptical of? Great question. Most psyched about? It's tough because I know which one I want to say, but that's so biased because I want to say Eric Kimry. But, you know, I'm friends with Eric. You know what I mean? Most psyched about Clayton White. Most skeptical about? No, probably most psyched about Justin Stepp at wide receivers coach. Skeptical about Marcus Satterfield. And I like the hire, but there's so much pressure that comes to that OC position. So, yeah. Matty last 523 excited that Beamer isn't just going for the same names we always hear for coordinators. I am excited, yes. Parker_Beaks 12. How many wins for USC next year? 6. 6-6. Gamecock.nation.news. Grade the DC hire 1 through 10. I'll go 7.5. Maybe 8. 7.5 or 8. I think it's a good hire, really. Last question. Charlie out _10. Why didn't we go after Steve Sarkisian? We might have. We didn't get him, but we might have. You know, I'm not mad we didn't. Listen, we got the guy that was the best fit for Carolina. We did. I really, genuinely, truly believe that. Whether he wins, loses, indifferent, South Carolina got the best possible fit in Shane Deamer. I genuinely, truly believe that. I really do. So, I'm happy with it. So, again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in here on a Monday. Got a fantastic interview, guys. Former Gamecocks quarterback Chris Smelley. What a legend he is. What a conversation we had, Chris. Taking the time to join the show, talk about his career. What a career it was with Steve Spurrier and Garcia and dealing with that, in and out, Blake Mitchell, all that good stuff, guys. Again, thank you so much for tuning in here on a Monday. And it's going to be a packed week yet again. It's going to be a packed week yet again. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you're all doing well, whether you're, again, at the office, on the commute, you got the day off, whatever it is. Thank you so much, as always, for your love, support, taking the time to support the show. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy this interview with former Gamecocks quarterback Chris Smelley. All right, joining us today on the Spurs Up Show is a man that played for Gamecocks football from 2006 to 2008. During his career, quarterback, he started 15 games for the Gamecocks, threw for 3,210 yards and 23 touchdowns. He's still top 10 in completions, attempts, completion percentage, and passing touchdowns for South Carolina. I'm very pleased to be joined by former Gamecocks quarterback Chris Smelley. Chris, appreciate you taking the time, man. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Absolutely, man. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. So let's go back, Chris, to the beginning for you, because, again, you're from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We're a standout baseball and football player. You chose football over baseball and signed your letter of intent with the University of South Carolina. Just talk about the recruiting process for you, again, being right there in Tuscaloosa. You know, Alabama's in your backyard, but you choose to go to South Carolina. And, again, you could have played either sport in college. I'd love to hear, why did you choose football over baseball? And then eventually, why did you choose the Gamecocks as your destination to go to school?
Yeah, man. Now, my whole life, I was kind of more of a baseball first kind of guy. And I was a catcher. And then I guess maybe my junior year of high school probably is when that started to flip a little bit. You know, being in Tuscaloosa and, you know, with the University of Alabama and being around the SEC football, I think it was just kind of the allure and the draw of playing SEC football that kind of took the took the cake at the end and kind of led me to wanting to play football over baseball. And so, recruiting wise, it's definitely a lot different now than what it used to be back 12 years ago or whatever it was. But I started to kind of get some recruiting interest from colleges. Probably I'd say my summer going into my junior year, and had some different offers and all that kind of stuff. Then was able to take some visits, and I tell you the visit that I had to Columbia was really cool. I really connected with a lot of the guys that were also up there visiting, even some of the former players. Some of the players that were already there on campus, and just felt super comfortable there. It was Coach Spurrier's first year back in college ball, and so that was definitely a big draw for me too. It was cool when he came and visited our school and visited Tuscaloosa and came down here. Was a big draw, but I always thought, and I always kind of wanted to play for Alabama. It's kind of my home school and all that. But sort of there, getting towards the end, kind of commitment time and all that. Alabama was flirting real hard with Tim Tebow, and so they were kind of holding off on any other quarterbacks. And so I actually had some schools like Louisville and a few other schools that said. That kind of called me and said, we've taken 2 quarterbacks now. So, we can't really honor our offer to you. And then about that time was when South Carolina really started recruiting me real hard. And I felt super comfortable there. And so that kind of led me to going to Columbia.
We got to talk about the head ball coach, obviously. You being a quarterback, your relationship with him, again, I'm sure that was a big factor in your decision to go play for South Carolina. Because, again, it's interesting when you got there, Spurrier was really just starting to build, what we saw eventually culminate in 2010, 11, 12, 13, all that good stuff. But, a legend, the quarterback whisperer. We all know how tough he is to play for. And I've obviously, like I was telling you off here, I've had some other former quarterbacks on the show, and they've definitely shared their experiences. But just talk about those first interactions with him and what that was like, I guess, building that relationship with Coach Spurrier.
Yeah, he's a unique character, and but definitely early on, it was it was an honor to have Coach Spurrier, calling me and recruiting me and all that. He's might be a top 5 all-time college coach kind of guy, and especially the impact that he really made on college football, specifically in the SEC. So that was definitely an honor. And it was funny, like when I was up visiting on my official visit and kind of talking with Blake Mitchell and some of the other quarterbacks there. And like anytime they'd start talking about Coach Spurrier, they just sort of start laughing almost, like kind of just had this funny look on their face. I can remember Blake being like, yeah, Coach Spurrier, he's a trip, man. And he really is a unique guy. He's all about football. He's all about football. I can remember times we'd go over on Thanksgiving lunch at his house with all the quarterbacks, and we'd all just sort of be staring at the whatever NFL game was on TV or whatever, and he'd always be commenting on different things. But no doubt he's a legendary coach, and like looking back, there were some good times, and there were kind of some times that at the time felt bad or whatever. But man, I really look back at it as a unique time for me, and really an awesome time. And look back at all the good memories that I had there in Columbia playing for Coach Spurrier, and I feel like it really kind of set me up for what I'm doing today. So.
Now, Chris, I want to get your take in. You get on campus fall of 2006, and you played in the first 2 games. I know, again, your mindset's not going to you weren't coming in saying, Blake's the starter or whatever. You're coming in fighting for the starting job. But especially with Coach Spurrier, a guy who is willing to change quarterbacks like that. He's willing to change quarterbacks. You throw a bad pass, he'll put another guy in there. You play in the first 2 games of the season. Just talk about the quarterback competition. From the second you stepped on campus, and then you suffered a heel injury during a practice. You got the medical red shirt, but your freshman season cut early, obviously, due to that injury. But just kind of talk about that freshman year a little bit. Because, again, you played in those first 2 games. Listen, your first SEC game, or I guess the first SEC game was the first game of the year, that game at Mississippi State, which is a real back-and-forth type of game. But you got in the game against Georgia as well. You went 7 for 11 for 64 yards. I mean, had a pretty solid day in that one, really tough game there as well. But just talk about that freshman year and then again the injury, having overcome that adversity.
Yeah, that wow, that was really the most crazy experience. Because the school I grew up playing, my high school was a smaller school. We were a 1A school, really the smallest classification in Alabama at the time. And so obviously the step up to SEC football was huge. And to get thrown in there after I'd only been on campus for, 2.5 months, something like that, starting in the summer. And Blake got hurt. Blake was the starting quarterback in Mississippi State. And he got hurt, kind of got a cut on his leg or something. I had to get in for a few drives. But even kind of to be the backup quarterback at that time was pretty surreal. I mean, it was that first game. I kind of always described it like I felt like I was watching myself playing in a video game or something. I mean, it was like it was kind of almost an out of body experience. That very first drive that I got in versus Mississippi State, and then played a little bit versus Georgia, and then had the red shirt. Which I think was really a blessing. I mean, I kind of needed to spend more time, kind of processing the game at that time. And, I think it can be really hard for guys to kind of get thrown in there early sometimes. And so that was definitely a blessing, I think, for me. But wow, yeah, that was pretty wild. My family always tells the story like how they were just freaking out up in the stands when it was like second drive of the game, and I graduated high school about 2 months before that, and there I going in there. So
it's crazy, Chris. I want to ask you about this because again, I know this is in college athletics. Listen, you're always fighting for your starting spot, right? There's always somebody working to take your job, and with each recruiting class, they're literally recruiting your replacement. That's the whole point. But when you look at your career. And again, you started a lot of games for South Carolina. You played a lot of good football, but it's funny. I feel like you were always, and not just you, Blake, Steven, you guys were always fighting for literally like the next drive. That's what it seemed like to me. Like it seemed like a constant carousel because I look and I'm like looking at the 07 season and the 08 and like it's funny from those seasons. You would think like I remember a lot of this one guy playing, but it's like those seasons I remember a lot of Chris Smelley playing. I remember a lot of Blake Mitchell playing. I remember, like, how did it feel from your end? Because, I mean, again, I'm going to dive into later, like 2008 Arkansas is the one that just screams at me. But, like, how did it feel? I mean, is that tough? And I know that's something you sign up for that when you play for Coach Spurrier. But, like, how tough is that on you mentally? Like, I feel like it'd be kind of hard to get in a groove because you're like, man, if I throw a pick, I'm going to get pulled. Like, there's no question. So, like, how does that affect your mindset and your game?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely would feel like that. And yeah, that I kind of had that going with Blake some, where we would sort of be back and forth. I guess 07, and then with Steven too, moving forward. And yeah, I think it definitely does kind of hurt your mentality a little bit. Sometimes it makes you sort of try to force things, make plays happen, all that kind of stuff, versus just sort of letting the game come to you. But like you said, I mean, that was kind of a Spurrier thing that he did. And it was kind of it wasn't out of the ordinary. It didn't seem weird, outside people looking in. But us quarterbacks, we'd be talking at practice, or we'd be, this or that. And it was definitely conversations that we had about, golly, this one play or whatever. It was definitely something we talked about, how being kind of weird, and golly, I just wish one of us would get to play the whole game, or feel like you're going to go into a game and play the whole game. So it was there, and I don't know how much it positively or negatively affected each of us, but it was definitely something that was kind of there in your brain that you'd think about.
Now let's move to some positive memories on the field, Chris, because again, you played a lot of good football for South Carolina. I want to move specifically that 07 season. Again, you're back from the injury. You started playing a lot more, and you had great games in back-to-back weeks. I think of Mississippi State. You threw for 279 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think Kenny McKinley had a big day that day. You guys win that game. And then Kentucky, the night game. Kentucky's highly ranked. They've got Andre Woodson on their side. They're feeling real good. You go 17-30, 256, 2 touchdowns. Corey Boyd had a big night that night. We all remember it was the rain game, a packed house at Willie B., electric atmosphere. Eric Norwood night, that's really what that was, the Eric Norwood game. Just talk about that. I know those are 2 games that probably really stick out to you in regards to your memories at South Carolina.
Oh, no doubt. That Mississippi State game, I kind of always ended up playing my best games against Mississippi schools, it seemed like. But that Mississippi State game was my first SEC start. It was also my birthday. And so that was a special night. And I got a game ball after that game, and got to hear my office sitting in here too. So, yeah, that was cool. And, man, Kenny McKinley, you just gave me chills when you said that name. And I can, golly, so many good memories of Kenny and that big smile. And, man, what an awesome dude.
Rest in peace, for sure. Rest in peace.
Yeah, no doubt. And, but yeah, he had a big game. But yeah, I felt like that was, man, to start that 07 season. There were some crazy things that happened. I think I started the first game and maybe didn't. I can't exactly remember how that thing started, but then we had those two big wins back to back versus Mississippi State, and then that big night game versus Kentucky, and they were highly ranked. And dang, I think we were ranked in the top 10 after that, and then it was just like the quick fall. Where I don't even know if we won another game the rest of the season. But those two games, definitely looking back were some high points and some good times. But, kind of in normal fashion, I think I played well in those two games. And then maybe the very next game, didn't play as well. And next thing I know, I was kind of pulled out of there. So kind of went back to the previous discussion too. So.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to ask you about that 07 season. You bring that up again. You played the next week at UNC, played pretty well, threw 3 touchdowns. Again, mentioning Ken McKinley, had a big game that game. You guys offensively had a great day, especially in the first half. And then the second half of that UNC game on that season, what happened? I'll just say, what do you think happened? I know you guys, obviously, you played some really tough teams down the stretch, too. Let's call that for what it is. But, 6-1, ranked 6th in the country. Do you think you guys were maybe – a little overrated, because I've asked some other guys that, and they think they say that one of two things happened. They think maybe we weren't really the 6th best team in the country, and maybe we got a little full of ourselves. What would you say happened down the stretch?
I would lean more on we might not have been the 6th best team in the country as opposed to being full of ourselves. And so that's right. So the North Carolina game was the next game, and man, we lit it up in the first half. And I've had people ask me about that game too. And I can specifically remember the halftime of that game. I can remember being a very weird halftime. There were guys, the coaching staff was kind of was being real finicky about stuff and kind of chewing everybody out. Man, I can remember, I'm not going to name him, I can remember a certain player who was one of the best players on the team, crying in the locker room over it, getting really emotional.
Right.
Just being really upset. And you're right, man. Coming out, we got real conservative. I think we ran the ball every play in the second half, almost threw the ball 2 or 3 times. And yeah, we that sort of started a weird thing. Now, again, like you said, we played some better teams towards the end of the year right there. But that was a weird halftime. Not that contributed to us all, everything that happened after that. But I can specifically remember that being a weird halftime environment. And then we came out and played bad in the second half and just never really righted the ship moving forward.
Now, let's move in that 2008 season, Chris, because that one was really interesting. And I got the opportunity a couple of months ago to talk to your former teammate, Taylor Rank, which Taylor, awesome dude, awesome guy, awesome conversation. Yeah. And his roommate was Tommy Beecher. And so obviously going into 08, that was the Tommy Beecher won the starting job in the offseason.
Yeah.
It started the NC State game. Needless to say, it did not necessarily go as planned. We all know what happened. You come in 5 for 5, 2 touchdowns, light it up. I remember you hit Deion LaCorn, that beautiful post route. Felt like one of the best balls, most memorable balls I feel like you ever threw. I don't know, just stands out for some reason. But you come in, light it up, whatever. Talk about the battle in the preseason. Tommy gets named the starter. And again, I know, from Gamecock fans' perspective, Tommy Beecher just wasn't a name you heard a lot. Yeah. But I heard he, from what Taylor was saying, he threw a beautiful ball, was a really smart guy, obviously. I mean, really, really smart guy. I guess just talk about that battle. Because, again, I kind of laugh because I have to think from your perspective, you're man, I'm going into another fall camp fighting for the job again. And so you're going through that yet again. Tommy wins the job, and then you go in that NC State game and the emotions of that, and then you come in and do what you did. what was that like? Walk me through like that preseason camp and then going in that first game. And I guess you played so well that first game, you win the job back.
Yeah. And Tommy got hurt in that game, but me and Tommy were really good friends. We weren't roommates. He was a year older than me. But man, I hung out at his house all the time, and really all of us quarterbacks were, even like in the times of being back and forth and all that kind of stuff, man, we were all really tight. But man, I tell you what, in that fall camp, and Tommy he was a really good player. He was smart. He was athletic. He's definitely more athletic than I was. And man, he lit it up. Like I'm like all through, like he had a good summer or whatever, but getting into fall camp, like it was like every day at practice, man, he was spot on. Like he was perfect. Like no doubt he earned that job and earned the right to start in that game. And then like going into that game, man, I can vividly remember like us sitting in the quarterback room and us, kind of going over our final game plan for that NC State game. And we thought we were about to throw for 400 yards. I thought Tommy was going to light it up. Right. And we were all like on fire and jacked up. And then obviously things didn't turn out well for him in that game. He ended up getting hurt. But yeah, I mean, he just went out and worked his tail off and earned it and practiced almost perfect, man. Like I can remember like, I'm sitting here like, making mistakes or doing whatever in practice. And every time Tommy got in there, man, he was just lighting it up. And so, that's kind of a thing where he 100% earned that spot.
Yeah. And it's funny. I went back and watched that game a little bit after I talked to Taylor. You talk about the injury. I think people forget, dude, he got lit up. I mean, he got his bell like rung.
He was throwing like a hell. I can't remember exactly what happened, or maybe he took off running one time.
He took off running. Yeah. And he like ducked his head.
Yeah,
he was seeing stars. I went back and watched that, and I was like, wow, I forgot that he got like really lit up on that play. So, yeah, crazy. But I want to move into, again, you guys lost the game, but this game just sticks out to me for some reason. That game at home against Georgia, you went 23 of 39, threw a touchdown. Again, really tough game. Georgia, I think they were ranked number 1 in the country. And you guys took them to the wire. And when I had Mike Davis on the show, we can all laugh about it now, just the fumble and everything, and just the way that game turned out. But man, talk about that one. I mean, electric atmosphere at Willie B. You throw that touchdown to Mo Brown. I know early you guys are feeling good. Again, number 1 team in the country, man. I mean, not a lot of, not every quarterback can say they got a chance to start and play against the number 1 team in the nation, and you lit them up for the most part. I mean, just talk about that day overall.
Yeah, that was a game we lost, but like kind of looking back, man, that was a special game for me. One was throwing the touchdown to Mo. Me and Mo were really close, really tight, and it's really cool to see Mo doing great things now in politics and all this. So I love Mo. But yeah, that game, golly, I mean, they had Matthew Stafford, no Sean Marino, AJ Green. I mean, they were just loaded up with talent, and we really took them to the wire there. And yeah, the fourth down, or it was first down and goal from like the 3-yard line. We're about to score and tied up late in the fourth quarter, and Mike fumbled. I think trying to just reach for a touchdown. Can't remember how it happened. But I'll never forget the response. The guy that picked it up for Georgia, like they interviewed him after the game, and he said, picking up that fumble was like finding a diamond encrusted beach ball on the ground or something. He's like the most random response I'd ever heard. But it really was, man, because it was an awesome atmosphere. The crowd was electric. And then we even on our very last drive, we sort of drove down there deep and had a shot. And I think I overthrew Jared Cook by about a foot to give us a chance there towards the end to be able to win that game. But yeah, man, that was very close to being a huge win for the program. And kind of getting to where we wanted to be, but didn't quite get it done.
But like you said, I think a sign of things to come. Because, again, it was moving the right direction, getting closer and closer and closer, but just missed it. And it was funny. You said overthrow Jared Cook. And I'm like, man, it's not easy to overthrow Jared Cook. That dude's a beast. I mean, we see him in the NFL. He's still doing it on Sundays. I want to go back, by the way, again, to, I guess, fall camp, whatever. Maybe really, I guess it was spring, whenever it happened. But a young, fiery freshman named Steven Garcia steps on campus, which obviously, again, threw another dynamic in the quarterback room, and yet just another quarterback to compete with. I'm sure you loved that. Talk about, again, we all know, like, Garcia's history at South Carolina. Again, had him on the show multiple times. He's a friend of the show, friend of mine. his history at Carolina is well documented, and there's a reason the legend of Garcia lives on at USC.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was funny for you watching it after you left, like watching him do what he did, go to the SEC championship, and like it was really cool too. But what was he like as a true freshman? Like I know like he was like a loose cannon, and he matured as the years went on, but he's still like to this day. The thing I love about Steven Garcia, he just is who he is. Like you have to respect it. You know what I mean? Like that dude is true to himself to a T, and if you don't like it, he doesn't give a damn. Like, what was that like? Again, you're competing with him for the job, but I'm sure, like, in a sense, you're kind of mentoring this guy, like, helping him out. Like, hey, this is what you got to do to play quarterback in the SEC. This is how you got to be on the field, off the field, especially off the field. I mean, like, what was that like, getting to building that relationship with him and battling with him for reps, if you will?
Yeah. Oh, man, I love Steven, and we still keep in touch with, like, random text messages and stuff like that. But, yeah, coming in, man, he sort of came in wild and carefree and all that kind of stuff.
The long hair, the beard, all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he is definitely, a one of a kind kind of guy. And I agree with all the stuff you kind of said about him. It's like, he is who he is, you know? And so, I can definitely sort of remember trying to talk to him about dude, what are you doing, man? He's got great talent, all this kind of stuff. And he would just do the dumbest stuff. He'd have an awesome practice and then he'd show up late to meetings the next day or something and just try to find ways to get in the doghouse all the time. It was almost like it's just, that's what got him excited about things or something. But yeah, I mean, I think that, that number 5 with just his style of play and the character that he is and his look and his moxie, man, he definitely carved out a pretty awesome space for himself as a Gamecock.
Now, you talked about you torched Mississippi schools, and that certainly was no exception there. 2008 at Ole Miss, you went 22 of 32, 327 yards, 3 touchdowns. I remember specifically, Chris, that was the Jason Barnes game. Jason had a big day. I think he had 2 touchdown catches. I think it was 2 or 3, man. Yeah, 2, I think. I think Jared Cook had the other one. But either way, he had a big game. You had a big game. Just talk about that day, because that was a big win going on the road in Oxford. I want to say that was maybe the first win over Ole Miss, at their or something. I think we hadn't beaten Ole Miss in quite a while. And but again, to go on the road, SEC West opponent again. I was thinking to myself, maybe because you're an Alabama guy, you like playing against those SEC West teams. I don't know, but you go on the road, ball out. Obviously, that was a big win, especially at that point in the season, if I remember correctly. Yeah, just talk about that game. And again, what was the connection with Jason Barnes? I mean, that dude had a heck of a game that day.
Yeah, he did. I can remember I threw a post route over the middle into the back of the end zone and about got him knocked out on one of those.
I remember that one, yeah.
But yeah, going into that game, that was a cool game. That was actually the week before that, Ole Miss had just beat Florida.
Oh, Florida, that's right, the Tebow game.
And that was the Tebow speech game, and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a cool little thing there too. So kind of going into that game, man, they were, I probably feeling very confident. So it was, one of those games where that was one of my better games. And the guys made plays. I mean, the catch that Jason Barnes had, I think Deion LaCorn might have scored a touchdown. Had Jared Cook caught about a 75-yard pass and almost took it to the end zone. So again, it was like kind of how we've hinted at a little bit. It was like there was these opportunities throughout these couple of years where it almost felt like we were getting ready to turn the corner, but it wasn't quite happening. And kind of as things continued to progress, next thing you know, a couple of years later, obviously the big South Carolina win versus Alabama, going to the SEC championship, all that kind of stuff. But I think we were sort of laying the groundwork there in a lot of ways of really being able to compete with some really good teams. And we weren't maybe as consistent as you would have wanted to be, obviously, but sort of making progress along the ways there in those first couple of years with Coach Spurrier.
Now, I want to move into that home game against Arkansas, Chris, because that one specifically I remember vividly. I was there in person, and what's so funny about that one too? Something that jumps out. I'm sure you remember that was the Michael Phelps weekend. That he got in all that trouble in 5 points. I remember they introduced him at halftime, and that was 2 days later. a picture of Phelps doing some inappropriate things. Whatever. That was just like a funny side note of that weekend. But specifically,
another funny side note of that thing, we actually I think it might have been like right before the game, or maybe like after the game, we actually, there were some guys hanging out with Michael Phelps, and one of my buddies, Hutch Eckerson, they were getting ready to jump in a car and like drive somewhere, and Hutch was getting in the front seat of the car, or he opened the door. Michael Phelps tried to get in the front seat, and Hutch said, "No, buddy, you can get in the back," and it told Michael Phelps he had to sit in the back of the car. I don't even think Hutch knew who Michael Phelps was at the time. He wasn't quite as popular or as well known or whatever at that exact moment. Yeah. But I'll never forget that Hutch saying, "No, man, you can sit in the back of the car."
Very good. Put him in his place. You're in Columbia now.
That's right.
No, so that game specifically, though, I was there in person, and you and Steven Garcia literally switched out every single play. And I know that was something Spurrier did at Florida in the 90s, and Spurrier can do whatever he wants. We understand that. But, like, I've talked to Garcia about that and his feelings on it. And I remember he told me that he literally told Coach Spurrier, "If you ever do that again, I'm transferring." So I'd love to hear, like, your thoughts. Because, again, we talked about just going drive to drive and how that can mess with the quarterback's psyche. Like, dude, we're talking play to play. I mean, that had to be, like, the craziest experience for you, like, playing in a game.
Now, that one was even worse. Because now you're thinking, when you go in there, I got to try to make something happen with this play. Like just handing the ball off and running the ball for 4 yards. That's not going to impress nobody. Yeah. Like, what I need to do, like audible the play and like try to hit a deep pass or something. That game was wild, and I don't even hardly remember. I don't think we discussed doing that going up.
I was going to ask, did y'all talk about that in pregame? Was that something?
Like looking back, it doesn't stand out that we never. I know we didn't practice that in practice, rotating like that. But I don't think we even discussed it in pregame. It was literally some little trick that Steve had up his sleeve or something that he was getting ready to surprise us with. Because definitely did not have any knowledge like going into that game that was about to happen. But me and Steven over there on the sideline, like, what the heck is going on? This is ridiculous. But we won the game, right? You have to
that's what I was going to say. That you can't say anything to Coach Spurrier because we won the game. So
the more as you're talking about all this stuff, like I'm able to remember everything.
Right. Jared Cook had the long touchdown. He took that crossing pattern all the way up for that long. That was one that stands out. That memory from that game. He had a really great game.
But I mean, I wonder if that's happened in college football since that game. Like, I don't know if it ever has or not. I mean, because you just don't see that really going on. But, I mean, every daggone play, it was wild.
For sure. Now, you being an Alabama guy, Chris, I do want to get your take on the Carolina-Clemson rivalry as a whole because, again, you played in that game a few times. In 2006, you were part of that team that beat them up there. I know you were injured, but obviously the Gamecocks winning that game in Death Valley. Just talk about how quickly you learned about the rivalry when you got on campus. Again, I'm sure it was something that you weren't necessarily familiar with, just how bitter it was. And then you get on campus, and I'm sure it clicked very quickly. But just talk about that and your experiences playing in the Carolina-Clemson rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I think that rivalry is up there with any of them. And, the fan bases on both sides are super passionate. That was kind of before Clemson sort of went on their run and became Clemson of right where they are right now. But it was always a huge game. And especially for those South Carolina guys that were, from the area and all that kind of stuff. I know it sort of had a different feel for them too. But playing in those games was awesome. Unfortunately, like looking back, I think the worst game I ever played in was the second game I played versus Clemson at Clemson and had a bad game. Like at the end of the game, golly, it was like tearing me up, man. Like I just felt like I let the whole state down or something, or at least the South Carolina side of people down. That was definitely a game that I know tons of guys had sort of circled on the schedule, and obviously the fans have that game circled. But it's just as big as any of these major college football rivalries, no doubt.
As big as Auburn, Alabama? Is it that big, you think? I mean, I'd put it up there with it. I mean, it's up
there with it. I guess it's just sort of like, what are the implications of the game every year? You know, maybe the difference, at least kind of recently, but I mean, it's definitely as old, and it's definitely as historic, and it's got just as much meaning to the fans and the people in the area, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm just curious. You being a Bama guy, being right there, I know you're right in the middle of that thing. And yeah, I was going to say, I was at that 2008 Clemson game. That was a miserable day for us all. I'll never forget. It was misting, like a rain. It was like 37 degrees, wind. That was a brutal day. But I want to get your take, Chris, on this, because I know Gamecock fans are interested to find out in this. You guys play Iowa in the bowl game, and they were a really tough team. And it's so funny. I have Alex McGrath on my show a lot during football season. Alex, obviously, former teammate of yours, and he was talking a little bit about some funny bowl stories and talking about that one, how you guys went to Busch Gardens and were using the food money for beers instead of food. And he was like, that probably says a lot of why they smacked us the way that they did, So, but that game, you play in that game, you throw a touchdown pass that, the game doesn't go your way, whatever. Steve Spurrier's continue to build, and we kind of saw that again in 2009 and 10, and the rest is history. But you played for Alabama baseball. You decided to transfer, go to Alabama 2009 and 10. You played for Alabama baseball? Yeah. Just talk about the decision. The decision to transfer, because I'm sure it took a wear and tear on you in the sense of, like, you're probably thinking to yourself, I'm going to have to come back again in 2009 and again fight for the starting job. And it's like you're going to be a junior at that point. And obviously, again, you were a standout baseball player and you had that opportunity to go play for Alabama baseball. Just what went in the decision? Why did you make the decision to transfer to Alabama and pursue your baseball career?
Yeah, so after the Iowa game, kind of going back home and being with my family and stuff like that, it was kind of brought up as a discussion. And like at the time, like it was never something I ever thought about doing, honestly. Like it was sort of brought up in a family dinner or something, and I immediately kind of brushed it off. My time at South Carolina was awesome. Had great friends. My girlfriend, who's now my wife, was there with me, and it was like, the football kind of has its ups and downs, but that's not what it's all about. It's not the only thing that's going on there. So it's like, I had so many positive things to do, and then kind of through some other more conversations kept having with families, kind of just, I don't know, just sort of led to that. And definitely there were times, I mean, I think that, it's all, it's all history. I think the Lord kind of works in mysterious ways. Like I'm now coaching high school football and have been for 9 years. And at the time, if I stay there, like, am I doing what I'm doing now? It's like kind of one of those things, like, it all works out in the end. But there have definitely been times because I felt like I didn't really get to sort of finish my time at South Carolina. I mean, obviously I didn't sort of like get to really close the page there. Whether I was the starting quarterback moving forward or if I was a backup quarterback, but I've definitely had those moments where I've thought, like, golly, I really wish I just would have, like, kind of stayed. Like, there's so many great things going on. But you can't change history, and things happen how they do. And I am where I am today. And really, I look back at all my time at South Carolina. And man, it was an awesome experience. My wife and I talk about it was like the best 3 years of our life. And really neat. And so I really enjoyed the time.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear about your experiences, though, as an SEC baseball player, because if there's one thing that's almost as hard as being an SEC quarterback, it's being an SEC baseball player, seeing the arms that you see on a daily basis, weekend after weekend. I mean, it's the best conference in the country in baseball as well. Talk about the adjustment for you, because I'm imagining while you were at Carolina, I mean, it's not like you were taking hacks or doing reps, and I'm a baseball guy, so I'm really just curious to hear, like, how tough was it to make the adjustment? Again, you probably haven't picked up a bat in 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was probably even a better baseball player than I was a football player.
Really? Okay.
Like in high school and all that. But like I said earlier, like, it was just the draw of SEC football was really tough to turn down. And so once I made that decision, like, getting back into it was more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And I was a catcher. So I went and started catching. And when it first happened, I thought I was going to get an immediate transfer and be eligible to play right away. Don't know if I really would have that much, but I had to sit out a year, and then I got to play a year. And then, so it definitely took some time to kind of adjust back to it, especially like you said, SEC baseball and those type of pitchers you're going to see on a regular basis. But going into fall, I guess fall ball, and then heading into the spring of the year, the 1 year I was going to get to play, man, I was lighting it up. I was the starting catcher. I was hitting home runs in our inter squad scrimmages and all kinds of stuff. And so I started for part of the year, kind of had some back to the South Carolina times. I started for part of the year as a catcher and then kind of went back and forth. But I tell you what, one of the coolest moments, if I look back at all my college career, one of the coolest moments was, so Alabama, we go back to Columbia.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
And we're playing South Carolina. And it was neat. So we had the guy that came and checked our rooms and stuff. And so I just asked him, I was like, look, man, I got all my buddies that are here. I'm going to skip curfew tonight. And just went and got to hang out with a bunch of dudes. I actually went back to the guys that I was living with, and we had a big bonfire and a big hangout. But then in the Sunday game, I came in, I wasn't starting at the time, and I came in and got a pinch hit in the 8th inning or something like that. And I was really wondering what the response was going to be. I didn't know. And sure enough, I mean, I'm getting chills thinking about it right now. I got a daggone standing ovation from the South Carolina fans that were at the game. And it was an honor, just to have that happen. I wasn't quite sure what the response was going to be with me transferring and all that kind of stuff. But definitely one of the coolest moments that I ever had as a college athlete.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I remember vividly spring of 2010. Again, this is before SEC Network and all the games were streamed, especially for baseball. I remember listening to that game on the radio because I think all South Carolina fans knew, hey, Chris Smelley's on the roster. He might play. And everybody was just curious to see what would happen. I remember hearing on the radio, former Gamecocks quarterback Chris Smelley at the plate. And it was crazy. I was going to ask you, was it how cool and weird was it? I guess being back in town, it's just here we are. We're back. I mean, it's just it's crazy. And, the standing O, I mean, awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So I'm curious to get your take, obviously, Chris. You go back to Tuscaloosa. You're living in Tuscaloosa now, coaching high school ball. What's the experience been like for you coaching? I guess you jumped right into it after your playing days, or what the, when did you know you wanted to be a coach? Obviously, it sounds like you wanted to stick around sports, if nothing else. But when did coaching kind of start for you? And obviously, you're still doing it right now. Give us some insight. Are you a head coach, quarterbacks coach? What are you doing specifically for down there in Alabama?
Yeah, so after I graduated, finished up at Alabama, I did a medical sales job for a year, and then ended up getting a call from my old high school from the principal about teaching and coaching. And so I coached at a few schools in around Tuscaloosa, but have now been the head coach at American Christian, where I went to school for the past 7 years. And man, we've really grown. The school's grown. We were a small 1A school when I was here, and now we're a 4A school in Alabama, so kind of middle of the pack size, and have had some really good teams. The last 4 years, we've made it to the third round of the playoffs for 3 years, and then this year we got beat in the fourth round of the playoffs. Had a state championship quality team and some really good players. And so I didn't know that I wanted to get into coaching. And it just sort of happened, and now it's definitely what I'm planning on doing the rest of my life.
That's awesome stuff. Chris, couple of things before I let you go. Obviously, you've been gracious with your time. This has been a fantastic conversation. Funniest Spurrier story. I mean, there has to be one that sticks out from your time. I mean, you had so many run-ins with this dude. Yeah. I can't even – I just again, I think back on your career, and it really feels to me that most, especially today in today's game, most teams know going into every game, hey, this is our starter. You know. I think back then I'm did they even know? Did anybody know who was playing? Because it's so crazy to look back at the games. And like I said, I almost remember a different quarterback for every game, much less every season. Every game was a different guy. I mean, I just can't imagine the day-to-day with this dude. I can't even fathom it.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many one-liners and different things, and then just kind of his. I swear, I don't remember how old he was at the time, but like he like, you know, if you did something at practice that he didn't like he's gonna keep you after practice, and he's gonna like get a football, and he's gonna like go in slow motion. And it's like he still thought he was like he had it, man.
He was the Heisman winner. He's still the Heisman winner.
Yeah, just looked perfect, and this is exactly how it should look. And all of us quarterbacks are sitting there like rolling our eyes, looking at him like we're like, oh my gosh, like.
Good afternoon. Would you like to try a free sample of our double fudge brownie?
Oh, sure. That's very good. I'll just take one more, just to be sure. Yep, still very good.
Some things never change, like never being able to take just one free sample. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Is that macadamia nut I taste? Let me take one more.
Sir.
Yeah, I thought so.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
This morning, Jen woke up, made 3 breakfasts, did 2 loads of laundry, and 1 conference call. But she also saved $25 because Jen uses a new innovation from Huntington called Money Scout. It analyzes Jen's checking account to find money that's not being used and moves it to her savings automatically. Learn more and enroll at huntington.com/moneyscout. Huntington. Welcome. Message and data rates may apply to text alerts. Money Scout is subject to eligibility, terms and conditions, and other account agreements. Member FDIC.
But man, he was very, very unique. But like we said, like, man, just a legendary coach, and to be able to have played quarterback under Steve Spurrier, you know,
I'm sure he got you in the film room more often than once, for sure. I mean, that's the thing I've heard from guys, is that he was just hell in the film room. I mean, he'd make you feel about that big, just like, what were you doing here? And Perry Orth, I don't know if you ever gotten to chat with him. I know he played way after you, but he told me one of his favorite lines was, "Well, it's my fault. We're the ones that recruited you. We're the ones that are playing you."
All the time.
Like, wow.
I'd get like the one thing you're supposed to be was smart, and you just did that. One thing you're supposed to be was smart. All kinds of things. But yeah, hey, it's not your fault. It's my fault. We're the ones that recruited you. You get all those kind of things. And no doubt. And again, it was stuff that, man, he was just so competitive. He was so competitive and like, just so locked in and wanted to win every game. But it definitely created some funny moments.
For sure. Well, Chris, before I let you go, last thing really quick, when you look back on your South Carolina career specifically, favorite memories, is there one memory specifically that stands out from your time at Columbia, whether it be on field, off field, with your teammates, whatever it might be?
Oh man, just the entirety of it. I mean, honestly, just friends and times, man. I can remember going with guys and going hunting and doing all kinds of stuff. But just really created a bond with a lot of guys. And honestly, one of the coolest memories that I have from South Carolina too is taking trips back and forth and driving home. And man, old Darian Stewart used to ride with me back and forth because he was from Huntsville, and we'd meet his family in Birmingham, and I'd drop him off. And just kind of times and conversations I'd have with him. Captain Munderland, another Alabama guy that I still keep in touch with. And so you look back and really it's those relationships that stick out. Obviously some of the big games were neat, and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, overall, when I think back at my time in South Carolina, man, just one of the coolest and best times of my life for sure.
For sure. Well, Chris, I appreciate you taking the time, man. Like I said, I speak for all Gamecock Nation when I say while your career had its ups and downs, very interesting, very fun to watch. Oh, last thing, I almost forgot to ask this. I have to get your take on this. The "Our Cocks Are Smelly" t-shirts. How funny was that? I mean, that was like that was a thing. That was a thing. Our cocks are smelly. Like, and obviously you didn't see a dime from it, which we could argue that the NCAA, whatever. But like, yes, that had to give you a good laugh. I mean,
it was amazing. It was amazing. And like all my assistant coaches and stuff, like even like my players, right, like throughout the years, they've like looked that stuff up and they're like, oh my gosh, like freaking out about it. But it was really just cool, man. Like, just to have something like that even happen. Obviously a play on my last name, which I've been dealing with since I was in kindergarten.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, all that kind of stuff was cool. I mean, I can, that just made me think, like, I can remember, I guess maybe my second year or something, my girlfriend and I, my wife now, so can really look back on it positively. Like walking through like the campus store and like seeing number 7 jerseys for sale, like, going into my sophomore year or whatever, like all that kind of stuff, man. Like just so cool, so neat. And but yeah, I've actually tried really hard to find one of those shirts. So if you got any listeners that want to send you one, you want to get back in touch with me. I've always wanted one of those shirts because I was told they like sold out or something, and I saw one on eBay one time, but I missed it.
Yeah, we'll find one. I have to believe there's some floating around Columbia. We'll be able to get our hands on
one. It's sitting in the bottom of their shirt drawer.
Yeah.
I've always wanted one of those shirts.
Dude, it's a must. We got to get one to you. Chris, appreciate you taking the time, man. It's been a pleasure. Obviously, again, appreciate what you did for Carolina, and obviously glad to hear you're doing well now. But let's definitely do it again soon, my friend. Appreciate it.
No doubt. All right, man. Good talk.
For sure. He's Chris Smelley. I'm Chris Phillips. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on the episode of the Spurs Up Show.